Welcome everyone. We're going to begin this webinar in a couple minutes. I just wanted to get everything started so that you can join in. So once again, thank you for showing up, and we'll start promptly in a couple of minutes. All right, welcome. We're pleased to have everyone here to attend this webinar today. This is going to be a fun one. We've been kind of chatting a little bit before the broadcast about some of the things that we're going to talk about, and I'm excited to hear this. So we're going to be talking about digital retailing. And before we begin, I want to make sure everybody's aware we're using GoToWebinar for this. And on the right-hand side, you'll have a control panel. And you'll see a bunch of little drop-down arrows. One of them specifically is questions. We really encourage you to get in there and ask as many questions as possible. After the webinar, we'll get to and answer as many as we can. And I also want to make mention that this webinar will be sent out. The video will be sent out to everyone who registered, as well as we'll have it posted in the driving sales community. So you should be able to access it multiple ways. So let's jump in there. I'm going to introduce Andrew Tai. He's the CEO and co-founder of Moto Insight, who is a leading technology provider that enables omni-channel car buying for dealers and automakers. Moto Insights, specifically Andrew's responsibilities, include the corporate strategy, the vision of the product, and management of senior client relationships. He's a contributing columnist to the Globe and Mail covering the automotive sector, and a recognized authority on digital retailing, often cited in industry publications. His previous experience includes private equity at Onyx Partners and investment banking at Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan. He holds an HBA from the Ivy Business School at Western University. So, Andrew, I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's start this thing.
Well, thanks, Bart. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Tai again, and I'm the CEO at Moto Insight. So as Bart mentioned, we're a technology company helping dealers and automakers to redefine the automotive retail experience, we like to say. So I'm really excited to be with you today to have a bit of a discussion on how the car buying journey is changing, the role of technology in that journey, and why it should matter to you. We're going to look across the retail landscape to learn from those that are best in class, as well as some cautionary tales. And we'll talk about what you can do to position your dealership to win, as well as identify some of the key trends on the horizon to keep your eye on. And my goal for today really is to help you better understand the wave of change that is already happening, but also help you take advantage of it. And as the title suggests, we're going to challenge some common misconceptions about digital retailing, which is probably one of the most misused and abused terms in our industry today. And a quick note as we begin here, I will reference a healthy number of stats in this discussion. And if you're interested in any of the underlying research, feel free to shoot me an email address at the end, and I'd be happy to send some of that research to you. So, I want to start with an example of a customer experience gone well. Okay. Now, airports and airlines don't have the best reputation for customer experience, I know. However, here's something that they've done right and we can learn from. I'm pretty sure almost everyone listening to me here hates standing in lines, right? And airport check-in lines are probably some of the worst, especially if you're late for a flight. That anxiety and dislike is actually how many consumers feel about the car buying experience today, though, right? But airlines have innovated to, one, provide a better customer experience, but two, also selfishly streamline their own operations. So first came those kiosks, right, that allowed you to self-serve as much as you could, and airline staff were still around if you ran into trouble. Then came online check-in, and now perhaps paperless apps, right, where you don't even have to talk to anyone except maybe the TSA agent. The two things I want to call attention to here, though, is one, there is no one-size-fits-all solution for serving customers, right? Some still go line up at the check-in counters, some only do online check-in, and many customers are somewhere in between that. This is the same in automotive retail, and there will forever be a place for the physical dealership store, but at the same time, customers are increasingly doing more online. And we'll talk about how dealers can enable the same customer experience that transcends in-store and online, and ultimately deliver better customer experience in the same way that online check-in did for airlines. But the second thing I want to talk about or point out here is, imagine if there was an airline that just simply did not offer online check-in because they, I don't know, didn't believe in it, right? Would you still want to fly with them? That's where most dealers and automakers in our industry are today, and this example of serving customers the way they want to be served really can be a guiding light as our industry grapples with digital retailing. So, in my role, I've spent the last almost 9 years working with dealers and automakers to better understand and adapt to ever-changing consumer experiences and preferences. While many of you may have been in the industry even longer than I have, just in my time in the business, I've really felt quite a remarkable shift in the attitudes of dealers and automakers. And today, one of the most common questions on our industry's mind is, how are we going to be disrupted, right? Is this all hyped by the media, or should I actually be worried? So for many, there is fear and doubt because, as with any big change in a market, there really are typically winners and losers, right? And I'm sure these were the types of headlines that these once mighty retailers were reading in their own industry publications not long before they were overrun. And they're just a cross section of the many more retailers that have since disappeared or filed for bankruptcy in recent years. And if you ask any of them, disruption is an understatement, right? But what really happened here? And what are the lessons that we can learn from their cautionary tales? That's what we'll dig into today. So, Toys R Us is the poster child of what happens when you get comfortable at the top and don't realize that the world has changed around you until too late. So if you can even believe it, it was just May 2017 when Toys R Us admitted that it had fallen behind on e-commerce and announced a bold new plan to revamp its online presence, the culmination of a 3-year, $100 million investment, they said. Their CEO said at the time, some organizations recognize faster than others that there are shifts in the way customers want to purchase products. It probably took us a while, is what he said. These statements really foreshadowed their demise less than a year later when Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy. And this is what happens when you fall too far behind. And by their own admission, they were slow to recognize that the world changed around them, and it was too late by the time they did. Interesting tidbit here, the original death warrant for the company may have actually been signed nearly 2 decades ago, back in 2000, when Toys R Us was the king of the toy world and e-commerce was still in infancy. They had signed a 10-year deal to become Amazon's exclusive partner to sell toys online. And Toys R Us effectively gave up its online autonomy to the point that ToysRUs.com simply redirected to Amazon's website. And they didn't bother investing in their own digital experiences. And while sales in the early years did just fine, this was a mistake that would ultimately haunt them. As you can probably predict, Amazon grew in size, scale, and prominence over the years, eventually becoming a competitor to Toys R Us. And by the time Toys R Us realized that it needed to build out its own online channels and capabilities, they were really just fatally too far behind the rest of the market, and they ultimately never recovered. Retailers in every industry, from groceries all the way to electronics, have been racing to adapt to the rise of e-commerce in order to stay relevant. And yet, notwithstanding all this upheaval in retail, e-commerce sales still currently accounts for just 10% of total retail sales. It seems the nature of disruptive forces is that it really doesn't take a lot to do a lot of damage, right? And that's why we got to pay attention to this. Cautionary tales of those defunct retailers that were too late to evolve really have finally seemed to have reached the auto industry, though. So many automakers and dealers today are now too embracing e-commerce and digital retailing. And while our industry in automotive has traditionally been a laggard, that gap really is rapidly closing, right? So obvious example, Tesla was once considered a bit of a fringe experiment by our industry, not only for its mission of electrification, but also for its unique retail model that allowed customers to order online. Well, interesting thing here is that Tesla was within spitting distance of Mercedes and BMW in total U.S. sales last month, even though they only have 3 models. And Tesla actually beat Audi and Lexus in those same categories. That kind of customer experience is actually quickly becoming more mainstream, as even globally, automakers, whether you're talking about Jaguar to Hyundai, have all deployed online transaction capabilities in some form. Digital retailing in automotive has really moved beyond that early adopter phase. And we tell dealers and automaker partners that we advise that if they're not already putting plans into action to meet this change, they're already falling behind. So let's take a look at some examples of digital retailing. It's a very broad term, right? And there are a huge range of examples in the market, some better than others. GM Shop Click Drive, for example, was one of the earliest digital retailing experiences, launched in 2013. And while it was a pioneer for its time, it's also an example of the challenge that automakers and dealers can face if they try to become software companies themselves and build their own solutions, right? After 6 years almost, one glaring example is the fact that customers can't save and come back later in Shop Click Drive, right? It's acknowledged right there in the FAQ, but the ability to save and revisit your shopping cart is table stakes in online retailing experiences in practically every other industry, right? Amazon, they've been making moves in automotive retail. Some of the highest profile examples having been done in Europe, Italy with Fiat, and then France with a VW-owned brand called Seat. These were really just advanced forms of lead generation and less actual online selling, though. But they give a glimpse of what is to come. And I think the takeaway caution on this one is, if you think about Amazon, right, as a dealer, would you rather a customer transact on an experience that you own and control, or on Amazon, where they're almost more Amazon's customer than your customer? Perhaps one of the most interesting learnings from this example, though, is Fiat's customer research showed that while 50% of consumers wanted to buy and transact online, nearly all of those consumers, 90% actually, wanted to pick up the vehicle in store. And so, that need for both online and in-store experiences is well illustrated by Hyundai Rockar, which was a retail concept that was started by Hyundai in the UK in partnership with a local dealer group. Hyundai Rockar store was located in the Blue Water Shopping Mall, which is one of the largest in the UK, just outside London. However, aside from its store, Hyundai Rockar also offered an entirely online purchase process, right? Where the magic happened, though, is how the online and in-store experiences really work seamlessly together. And in fact, 60% of their customers leave their store and complete their purchase online later. And Hyundai Rockar's success illustrates how delivering better retailing experiences actually can be an offensive move to differentiate, as opposed to just a defensive move to keep up. The average Hyundai buyer in the UK is male and in his late 50s. Hyundai Rockar's customers are 58% women with an average age of 39. And in fact, 94% of Hyundai Rockar's buyers have been new to the brand, right? This is now being used by Hyundai UK as the foundation to what they're now calling their Click to Buy program. But it's a great example of the potential that digital retailing has for your business. In actuality, though, if we take a step back and we compare what most automotive brands and dealerships are doing today with what you see in other industries, it actually makes very little sense, right? There's so much opportunity left on the table, and we'll drill down into how your dealership can take advantage of some of those. But imagine for a second, if you went to Apple's website and you could look at tons of photos and videos and research about iPods and iPhones and iPads, but beyond all that, all you could do was fill in your name, your email address, your phone number, and wait for someone to get in touch with you. That's all you could do, right? It would sound a little bit silly, right? That's the state of nearly every automaker and dealer website today, though. Automotive is, in fact, one of the most lucrative advertising verticals across all retail segments. Any marketing directors out there at dealer groups will certainly attest to that, the amount of money you guys spend. But there is more ad money spent by automakers and dealers than almost anyone else. And yet, how that money is spent is actually some of the least sophisticated. While it's certainly important to track and measure the litany of performance metrics like impressions, visits, and shares, most automakers and dealerships stop at measuring cost per lead, if they even do that, right? Leaving a massive chasm to determining what really matters, tracking true ROI, which is a sale. Because the interesting insight is, if you look at many of the social media platforms where ad spend has migrated to, and where many of the automaker and dealer community is now spending their money, those platforms that were once all about the likes and the shares and the pokes, you'll see that they are themselves now focused on generating the sale. And this just illustrates how even the leading ad platforms now realize that audience isn't enough. Successful marketing must turn audience into buyers. And the best way to do that is to make it easier and seamless, eliminating as much friction as possible on that path to purchase. Going from, that's a nice top, to that's the right color, to in my shopping cart and bought in just a few clicks. Or, in this Instagram example, from, hey, those are cool shoes, to that's my size, to it'll be here, tomorrow in just a few swipes. Now, you guys are probably thinking this. I recognize too that buying a car invariably has more steps. My point here is just that driving clicks and visits and impressions is not enough anymore. And just driving leads is not enough anymore. Enabling digital retailing allows customers to go far further in the purchase journey, which in turn will enable you as dealers with more precise data on who is actually buying, which in turn will enable you to better target your ad spend on the most likely buyers. And that's one of the opportunities in digital retailing. But digital retailing is certainly a loaded term, though, right? And there's much debate about what it actually means for dealers. Our perspective is that there really are no one-size-fits-all definitions. Different dealers will have different approaches, right? But what we can agree on, I think, is customers want to do far more than just fill in a lead on your website, and solutions that just reshuffle the deck chairs to generate more leads is not an actual differentiated solution. Rather, enabling better customer experiences with greater transparency and convenience really is the key to success. So digital retailing must be far more than just e-commerce, right? At Moto Insight, we believe that the right customer experience is about far more than simply putting a buy now button on your website. Digital retailing is about how to serve customers better, and the in-store components of that are just as important as the online components. And digital retailing involves far more than just your website, no matter how great it is. In fact, according to a study by EY called The Future of Automotive Retail, only 52% of car buyers visited the dealer's website during the purchase process. Now, some of you may be glass half full kind of people, but my point is that if all you focus on is your website, you're forgetting about half of your customers that might never touch it. So I'm going to whip through some stats here to put some perspective in about the market. So yes, data is overwhelmingly clear that we need to make investments here, right? 86% of car buyers will choose a dealer that enabled online buying over another that didn't, even if the customer doesn't ultimately buy the car entirely online. However, the vast majority of car buyers, 71%, still want to take a test drive before buying. So physical interaction still plays a critical part of the buying journey. So that brings me to my first takeaway, right? Your physical dealership is critical in digital retailing. People still want that touch and feel experience, but customers want to do far more online, and that's the new battleground. Buyer behavior is rapidly shifting, and there's really no doubt that more of the car buying journey has and is moving online. This is a Bain research report. 60% of car buyers already decide on the brand, model, and price before even visiting a dealership. And that's led to compression in the amount of time and number of visits customers make to physical dealerships. Depending on which report you want to read, it's gone from, let's say, 5 visits to 2 or so over the last decade. And so dealerships must adapt to this new reality that the battleground for customers has shifted online. And if you don't engage them early in that shopping process and deliver a differentiated experience before they step foot into your store, they may never come to your store. So there's no denying that customers want and are doing more online. TrueCar research says that over half of car buyers want to put together a complete deal entirely online and then finalize it at the dealership. And the days of hammering out a deal between the showroom, the sales manager's office, and the business manager's office are quickly going away. And the proportion of customers that want to buy their car entirely online is growing too, with reports that say as many as 42% would do so if they could. Interesting fact, it's grown in that same report meaningfully as compared to just a few years ago, right? So an effective customer experience is one that enables customers to shop whenever, wherever, and however they want. If Amazon's moves are any indication, right, the importance of physical storefronts will remain for the foreseeable future. It's really kind of ironic that for all the doom and gloom that Amazon casts over physical retailers, Amazon itself is now building its own physical stores. But the thing to learn here is that Amazon's success is in how their online and in-store channels work seamlessly together. To that point, it's omni-channel experiences that transcend the traditional online and in-store barriers that will win. One interesting fact about our company, we're a little over 90 people today, but a good portion of our team has never actually worked in automotive prior to joining Moto Insight. They come to us from retail brands, e-commerce brands, consumer brands, right? Whereas the remainder are deep auto experience folks from automakers, dealers, other automotive technology companies and the like. And that blend of experience gives us unique perspective. We spend a ton of time studying examples like this, right? On how the consumer shift to omni-channel experiences has already occurred and delivered success in other industries. Many of you drink Starbucks, but few of you probably realize that about 40% of their order volume now involves the Starbucks app, with 13% of customers ordering and paying in advance via the app, and then simply stopping by the store to pick up without having to line up or talk to anyone. I think just a few years ago, almost no one would have imagined something as physical as buying a cup of coffee would be disrupted by technology. Omnichannel experiences have spread practically to all retail segments, right? From Walmart to Nordstrom's. Retailers have blurred those lines between their digital and physical storefronts with experiences like buy online, pick up in store. And this seamless combination of online and in-store experiences for consumers is now that gold standard. Even Warby Parker, which was a e-commerce only retailer that manufactured and retailed eyeglasses, has moved to omnichannel. A quote from their founder, Neil Blumenthal, explained, the future of retail is at the intersection of e-commerce and bricks and mortar. They use their in-store experiences to drive customers that ultimately buy online, and their online experiences drive customers that ultimately visit their stores. The bottom line, though, is that the pace of change is accelerating, and those that stay static might get left behind, and automotive retail is not immune. Poster child of this revolution that's already upon us is Carvana. Many of you may know them as the inventors of that car vending machine. But just 6-7 years ago, this company didn't exist. Today, they are a $9 billion market cap public company that sold 100,000 units in 2018, on track to double again this year. Just try to imagine what our industry will look like, right, in another 5 years. And automakers and dealerships that choose to embrace change are going to see tremendous opportunity. So what these and other examples illustrate is that the traditional retail strategy of starting and finishing in store isn't enough anymore, and an e-commerce only strategy of starting and finishing online isn't enough either. Customers no longer see a separation between online and in-store experiences, and they want to interact with both seamlessly. And in the automotive context, that can mean saving the vehicle, accessories, and warranties I want into a digital shopping cart, completing my credit application, and getting a trade-in appraised all online virtually before I visit the dealership to finalize my deal. Or perhaps being able to access a digital shopping cart that was created for me in store, allowing me to finish my transaction from home. Because the reality is that the car buying journey is rarely a straight line, and most customers move between multiple channels throughout the course of that journey before making a purchase. And in a research report entitled "The Future of Automotive Retail," Deloitte underscored the importance of understanding and adapting the way we serve customers by highlighting that when it comes to customer experience, Generation Y drivers, the fastest growing segment of car buyers actually, values it 3 times as much as vehicle design. So this is an example of the customer experience of the future that we believe will soon become mainstream in automotive retail. Genesis is a luxury brand, as many of you know, spun out of the Hyundai family, and we worked with them to take the car buying experience to a whole new level by enabling customers to complete the entire vehicle purchase online, in store, or any combination of two. This was a global first by an automaker, as even Tesla's purchasing experience doesn't go quite as far. The goal was really to remove as much friction as possible so that customers could spend their time focused on the product and not the process. And we're proud to enable this experience with our technology that we launched back in early 2017. The photo you see there is of one of the Genesis stores. They bought into the omni-channel philosophy that the in-store experience was just as important as the online experience. And in Genesis at Home, as they call it, customers have the ability to seamlessly transition between online and in-store experiences as they please. Anything done online at home could be seamlessly picked up in store, and anything done on the showroom floor could be seamlessly continued from home. So here's how the Genesis at Home experience works. Customers can configure the vehicle they want with a dynamic build and price, choosing colors and options, or select the desired vehicle from available dealer inventory. Recommended accessories, warranties, and other F&I products can also be added to their digital shopping cart through a dynamic Q&A recommendation engine that helps customers choose the right products based on their needs. At every point, customers can see dynamic, penny-accurate pricing and payments that can be customized, whether buying in cash, financing, or leasing. And adding and saving the car and products to your shopping cart is really just the first step in Genesis at Home. Customers can get a virtual trade-in appraisal online, reserve your vehicle with a credit card deposit, get credit approved online, schedule an in-person appointment, and much more. The trade-in process, to give you a peek, enables an instant estimate, whether that be in this example Black Book or really whichever third-party provider you choose. Beyond that, a detailed condition questionnaire is then presented in order to receive a virtual appraisal from the selected dealer, which includes vehicle photos being captured from the customer using our mobile-friendly technology that doesn't require any app installation and simply sends a dynamic link via text message to your smartphone. And all this information is presented to the dealer for evaluation and response. As the dealer is providing an appraisal virtually, the value is, of course, subject to final physical inspection to ensure accurate disclosures. But once that appraisal is submitted, customers can see updated pricing in their shopping cart with any tax savings applied, almost like a coupon code. This customer journey is the same, whether the customer starts it from home at their computer or with a salesperson on a tablet on the showroom floor. And if you started from home, you effectively can virtually wheel your digital shopping cart into the store and complete that transaction alongside a salesperson. Alternatively, if your journey started in store with a test drive, perhaps your salesperson can save all the items discussed in the showroom floor on a tablet into a digital shopping cart that you could complete and check out from home. This customer journey continues on, and customers can reserve and order their vehicle with a credit card deposit, get credit approved online with a paperless application that integrates with both Dealertrack and Route One. And that eliminates the need for emailed PDFs or scanned forms, but it even means no more duplicate entry of credit app info at the dealer. And Genesis at Home, powered by our Moto Commerce digital retailing platform, can also manage the vehicle delivery process, allowing customers to book delivery appointments online in an open table style calendar. Even pre-delivery document capture is handled digitally inside Genesis at Home for everything from a copy of their driver's license through to their auto insurance information. And while online and in-store experiences are equally important, Genesis's deployment of our Moto Commerce platform underscores that it's possible to enable an end-to-end digital transaction that covers that final mile to delivery, including document generation and execution. And in Genesis's case, the vehicle can actually be delivered to the customer in a giant glass box like this. Right? When you talk about customer experiences that delight, it would be really hard, I think you would agree, for any customer not to get excited by this kind of experience. So you might say, that's pretty cool, right? Love the delivery with the truck, but why should I care, and how can this benefit me? Meaning the bottom line at my dealership. So I could spend an entire hour just on this part alone. But here's the punchline. The data is pretty clear. Seamless customer journeys that save customers time can dramatically increase CSI, which ultimately lead to increased customer loyalty and your profitability. And in particular, connecting in-store experiences with technology like tablets can help you significantly differentiate your dealership. According to a J.D. Power study, customer satisfaction has a proven and direct correlation with the number of hours a buyer has to spend in the dealership to get a deal done. Right? And the longer the time spent in the dealership, the lower the satisfaction. Any successful digital retailing experience at its core is designed to save customers time and enable them to complete far more of the purchase journey at their leisure. As well, according to J.D. Power's Sales Satisfaction Index, openness and perceived transparency of the purchase process are factors that have a disproportionate influence on the overall experience for customers. And this is precisely where tablet-enabled sales experiences can be actually highly effective. And ratings for salesperson's honesty and the other one's fairness to price paid improve meaningfully when customers indicate that their salesperson used a tablet as part of their sales process for things like reviewing pricing or payment information, demonstrating vehicle features, or capturing order data. Incidentally, many of the things we saw being done in the digital retailing experience that we went through just earlier, right? But yet, only 10% of customers today actually encounter this type of best-in-class experience, even though the cost to dealers to deploy this kind of experience is really at an all-time low. With readily available consumer technology like simple iPads or Android tablets replacing expensive proprietary hardware that may have once been required. And fully responsive web experiences like those that we went through have really replaced the need to build standalone apps that require downloading and installation. And it doesn't take a tremendous amount of imagination to draw the line between higher CSI and higher dealership profitability. And on that point about loyalty, one of the most effective cases for digital retailing technology is actually to retain your existing customers, delivering what we call a key-to-key experience. Because if you think about it, your existing customers are the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to digital retailing. They already know the brand and are driving one of your cars. And if their lease is coming due, your odds of retaining them are far higher, as an example, if you can deliver a seamless experience that dynamically shows recommended options for their next vehicle based on historical data, enables them to complete a lease self-inspection with the same virtual trade-in appraisal technology we showed you earlier, and effectively finalize a deal before walking into the store, so that when they do come in, they can simply hand you their old set of keys for the new ones. To borrow a bit of inspiration from Amazon's one-click purchase, I like to call this the 5, maybe 6-click lease renewal. And we're actually in the process of scaling this nationally now for Audi, and after a successful pilot with them over the last 6 months. It's really a far cry from the generic static physical mailers or even email campaigns that we all send to customers at the end of term, telling them to just book an appointment. You know, this all comes back to the golden principle of, you know, following your own consumer instincts. You know, I want you to take your dealer hat off for a minute and really just think like a consumer, because ultimately you are one, right? Ask yourself what experience you would want. A good example of this is, you know, customers today, after spending 10 plus hours online researching the vehicle they want, are almost always driven to fill in a lead with their name, email address, and phone number, to wait for someone to call before they can take their next step in the purchase process. Think of yourself, right? When was the last time that you as a consumer found a product online that you wanted to buy, right, and then filled in a lead form with your name, email, phone number to wait for someone to call you about it? Probably been a while, right? So like you, consumers don't want to do this, and by and large, they avoid it wherever possible. Imagine if you found a product you wanted on Amazon, and when you clicked add to cart, it asks you to fill in a lead and wait for someone to call. Again, pretty silly, right? At Moto Insight, we do a fair amount of mystery shopping on dealerships, and this is why customers hate filling in lead forms. You get hammered with emails and phone calls. I got 10 emails from simply submitting one lead where I asked for an lease payment on a vehicle I was interested in. Worst yet, the responses that I got added very little value, right, and didn't answer my question about payments and just pushed for me to book an appointment or give them a call. You know, unfortunately, this is actually pretty status quo across our industry. You know, my advice is let's stop talking about selling online and how your dealership is going to sell cars online until we do better on the fundamentals. Because herein lies the biggest opportunity that can move the needle in your business in the short term. More than 95% of visitors to your dealer website do not fill in a lead. Because as we discussed, it's kind of silly, right? Kind of a silly experience in this day and age, even though many of them are very interested in buying a car. Enabling customers to do more and go further online beyond just filling in a lead will capture more of those potential buyers for you. Because if you think about it, you're comparing and shopping two different dealer websites as a consumer. Which dealership are you more likely to engage with? The one on the left that simply forces you to fill in a lead and that's all you can do, or the one on the right that allows you to do as much of the purchase process online from home before you even step foot into the store. As a second opportunity, even more so, less than 10% of customers that take their time to fill in a lead actually turn into a sale. And if you're a dealer here, right, or even an OEM marketer, I want you to think this through with me. Use your own numbers, right? But let's say you get, I don't know, 500 online leads a month across all of your channels, your website, Trader, Car Gurus, Cars.com, and you convert 10% to sales, like the rest of the industry. What happened to the other 90%? If we could engage those leads better and convert at even 11, 12, 15, or 20%, that translates into real impact to your sales. I want you to imagine, what if your dealership stopped responding to leads with the same status quo response that every other dealership in your market is giving, where the message is simply, come on into the store or give me a call? What if instead your dealership's lead response sounded more like this? Hey, Mr. Customer, thanks for checking out that vehicle on my website. We have that in stock, and I've added it to a personalized shopping cart for you. Here's the link to that personalized checkout experience, and you can complete as many of the steps as you like from home before you come on in and see me, saving your time. I'm here to help whenever you like. As a consumer, which response would you rather engage with? The status quo that just asks you to come in or call the store on the left, or the dealer on the right that has the differentiated response? And it's no surprise, right, that our data and experience shows the differentiated response wins hands down. And finally, digital retailing can have as much of an impact on the customers in your store as those on your website, helping convert more of those BVACs. Because what if instead of handing scribbled 4 squares or printouts along with a business card and brochure to potential customers that leave your store. What if instead you could build out the exact deal discussed on the showroom floor in a shared screen alongside the customer, and then send them a personalized invite that would allow them to pick up and continue that journey from home, finishing the transaction from their couch and at their leisure? Would you think that would be a better customer experience? Would you rather do business with the dealer that does it on the left or the dealer that operates on the right? So digital retailing is about delivering a better customer experience, right? That differentiates your store from the rest of the market, but it is as much about delivering results for your store and your business beyond just simply customer experience. That includes, as we talked about, converting more of your online traffic that is not engaging and not filling in leads today, but you pay for that traffic, converting more of the leads that you already get. Where's that 90%, right? Converting more of your BBACs and being able to see how they're engaging and what they do after they leave your store. Increasing F&I and accessories penetration by merchandising F&I and accessories earlier in the process. That's a core part of what our platform does, and you saw that in the earlier example that we went through. And then ultimately, better customer experience results in better customer loyalty. But we also work alongside many dealerships that see digital retailing's most powerful application for existing customers, much like the Audi example that I showed you earlier. So, what does this ultimately come down to? Today, most dealerships are operating at what you see at the top of the screen there, right? They spend money on ads, they get traffic, they send it to a lead form, and they lack control over the customer experience and just hope for the best until the customer shows up at the store. But that's where we're seeing that very low conversion, right? What digital retailing and our Modo Commerce platform can help enable is really, one, ensuring complete visibility throughout the customer experience, as you see on the bottom, but being able to guide that customer to purchase or leading the horse to water, if you will. And that guided journey approach is proven to deliver real business results. In one study that we did, Modo Commerce customers engaged and converted to sale 2.6 times higher than a traditional fill form lead. And when used alongside to promote to existing customers to upgrade to their new vehicle, allowing them to enable that almost key experience that we talked about, exceptionally high engagement rates, as you see on the page there. But to kind of bring this all back home, right? We've talked about why digital retailing is important and the opportunities, right? Here are some quick tips to actually achieve digital retailing success. And it all comes back to, you can't simply set it and forget it. One, you have to embrace a culture of change and experimentation. This is something that we've seen with successful dealerships using our Modo Commerce digital retailing platform. And that philosophy is really around the fact that the old adage of that's how it's always been done is increasingly inadequate. But two, beyond setting a culture in your store and communicating that, hey, change is expected, and we're going to learn through experimentation, actually promoting and marketing your digital retailing experience as a differentiator is critically important. You can't just throw it on your website and hope for the best. And here are some examples of where dealers that we work with have leaned forward in creating videos and collateral that we actually will enable our dealerships with to actually properly promote their experience and show customers why shopping from your dealership is a differentiator versus the rest of the market. This is a real tactical one, but simplifying your website calls to action. I think I won't call any bad examples out, but I'm sure you've personally seen dealer websites that have probably a dozen different call to actions that are blinking and flashing, right? We've proven it time and time again that simplifying down your website calls to actions to things that matter to customers and have a clear journey. With digital retailing, some of the most powerful examples are what you see from clients that we work with here, right? being able to simplify that, the calls to actions, and take that customer through a guided journey, ultimately results in higher conversion. And then being able to decide on your goals and measure towards them, right? We went through a number of use cases of digital retailing earlier today, but there is no one size fits all, right? If, for example, you get a lot of leads and your problem is you're not converting them at a high enough rate, pick that as your use case, set a target for what you want to get conversion to, and focus in on measuring towards that, right? So decide on your goals, be specific about the use cases on where you want to apply digital retailing, and measure towards them. Because change doesn't happen overnight, and it requires consistent and constant effort. So find a partner that has robust technology, but also focuses on delivering people and process training. For us, we call that our ADAPT framework, which really is focused on not just the initial store assessment and creating a tailored plan for you to implement and manage the change required with digital retailing, the integration of actually plugging in to all of your existing systems, but also beyond kickoff training, continuous coaching, because like exercise, this is not a one and done type effort. So to go back to the original question we started with, right? Are dealerships going to be disrupted? The answer is yes, right? Disruption is coming, but it doesn't come overnight. And the changes that are necessary to win don't come overnight either. I like to borrow a line from Charles Dickens. It is the best of times and it is the worst of times to be a car dealer. It's an amazing time to be in this industry if you're on the offense, but it's the worst time to be in this industry if you're only playing defense. And I think most dealers are too busy playing defense, but this is your opportunity to win, and why you're here having this discussion with us today. Because again, customers have evolved. What you do before back in the day and how customers used to shop is evolving now. And these are the takeaways to keep in mind as you plan your offense. Digital retailing is more than just selling online. We talked about how that the online and in-store experience must operate seamlessly. They're both equally important. Tablet-based sales is really a missed opportunity. We talked about the benefits of that. The golden principle ultimately is think like the consumer, right? What would you want? Take your dealer hat off from time to time and look at how you shop and interact with retail experiences in your own time. And finally, when you're ready to do digital retailing, know that you can't just set it and forget it, right? It is a process, and hopefully some of those quick tips for success that we talked about and examples that we called out, will be valuable to you. But that's the webinar session planned for today, and I really appreciate the opportunity to spend time with you. If there are questions, I'd be happy to take some of those now. But beyond that, if you're interested in learning more about digital retailing, how it could work in your store, and our technology in particular, any of the examples I cited, certainly don't hesitate to reach out to us. And so, with that, Bart, I'll pass the mic back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Andrew. And remember, you can go ahead and excuse me, ask some questions in that the question tab on the drop-down menu on the side on the control panel. But while we wait for some of those, look, this is I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. This is all great, but my margins are already razor thin, and if I put the control in the consumer's lap, I mean, what is this going to mean to my margins? It's one thing to shop price. It's another thing to shop payment, to shop, back end stuff. What is this going to do to my margins?
That's a great point, Bart. I think I look at it from two perspectives. One, customers today value convenience in many cases, even beyond price. Now, I say that recognizing that, hey, price needs to be fair, right? There are enough tools out there today that customers triangulate around what a fair price is, pretty rapidly. And so, I say that knowing that, you have to be competitive with your individual market. right? But price is no longer the differentiator, and you just can't win on price anymore. And so this is really about differentiating the customer experience to give customers a reason to do business with you beyond simply price. That said, I think going back to how digital retailing can drive ROI, I think F&I and accessories is a good example of that, right? Our data and lots of industry research has now backed this up. That customers that are merchandised F&I and accessories early in the process, as we showed, going through the purchase journey, will ultimately lead to higher F&I penetration. We are not taking away the F&I opportunity in the store, not at all. When customers come in, we enable that seamless transition so that an F&I manager or a sales manager can pick up right where that customer left off. So you really get 2 kicks at the can, or 2 shots on goal, if you will. And if the customer self-selects accessories and F&I products from home, then you've already won and you are ahead of the game. But digital retailing can actually help you streamline your business, save time of your staff while they are actually in store, focusing on closing deals as opposed to process. So it is a dual side, and in that customer experience actually is a differentiator to go beyond price and give customers a reason to come to your store. But beyond that, digital retailing can actually help you drive higher ROI in F&I and accessories. But even as we talked about around converting more of the online leads that you already get and pay for today, converting more of the traffic that you get and pay for today. All right, getting more out of that money that you already spent today is where it creates business value for dealerships.
Well, I'm glad that you called out that we're not talking about buying online. I think one of the maybe the misconceptions, or one of the reasons why dealers are waiting to jump into this, is when they're a state of their province or their market or their OEM, they can't deliver a car online. And you're making a good case for a flexible process where customers can do steps on their couch, or they do the same steps in the store using the same tool.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really important to emphasize. We spend a lot of time with dealers, and some of the dealers that have been in the business for a while. I've heard often they tell me that, hey, Andrew, this thing that people are calling selling cars online, heck, I've been doing that for 10 years, 15 years, back when we were using fax machines, right? Where I'd fax things back and forth to a customer, and I would either deliver the car to the customer, or if they came into the store, it was deal jacket was ready, sign and pick up your keys. I think there's also often a lot of misconception about what is or is not online selling. At the end of the day, digital retailing is about allowing customers to do more at their leisure, but creating that seamlessness between online and in store. And we really focus on that with our Modo Commerce platform, where that transition is literally seamless, where a customer can do as much as they want online, build out a deal, accessories, F&I, payments, do a trade-in, credit app, whatnot. And when they walk into the store, we can enable a salesperson on a tablet, kiosk, or desktop to literally pull up the exact same screen, the exact same order that the customer built and left off on from home. So the customer feels like they're virtually wheeling their shopping cart from home into the store and picking up right where they left off. And anything done in the store, when they leave the store and go home, they can continue that journey without skipping a beat. That mirrored experience is really important, and what customers expect now from other industries.
I'm glad that you stressed or emphasized the power of the brick and mortar. We kind of talked about this before the webinar started, just anecdotally, but it's easier to replicate, in a dealership, it's easier to replicate what Carvana is doing than it would be for Carvana to replicate that dealer experience. With having that facility, having that inventory, that's a big hole in their model.
Yeah, for sure. At the dealer storefront is a significant differentiator, and I think we've seen, even though our technology can enable in many cases full end-to-end transactions for a customer never stepping foot into the store, customers do want to go into the store, right? And I think dealerships should use that to their advantage. As we talked about, Amazon itself is building their own physical storefronts. Lots of e-commerce retailers are building physical storefronts. So dealers already have that leg up, have that advantage. The key is how do you link the online and the in-store experience, and take your virtual storefront or your digital storefront, right, as seriously as your actual storefront. So the investments that you make in your building to differentiate that experience, think about it as, what does your virtual storefront look like? What are you able to do on your virtual storefront? And that's what digital retailing is about.
Yeah, I feel like that as an industry where it's easy to become addicted to leads. How many leads did I get? And you see that with some of these chatbots that are all about getting your name and number and getting that information instead of engaging the customer. And it kind of dovetails into what Irene's asking. She said, how do we convince the dealers and dealer staff that only say get them into the store and don't want to give any of the information online is kind of a flawed methodology.
For sure. Yeah, no, couldn't agree with you more.
So how do we convince them that we need to be transparent and give them that information online?
Yeah, I think in many cases they're already getting it, right? They're already getting it from third-party sites, and so why drive customers out of your experience into someone else's? I think what we're seeing is really compression and price variability, where kind of the rock bottom deal and a fair middle of the market deal is compressing, and so customers value being dealt with straight. And I think it comes back down to your experience versus the dealer down the road. How do you better engage the customer? Transparency is one element of that, and digital retailing certainly supports it.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. I really appreciate this. There's a lot of meat on the bone, and at the end of the day, we need to kind of approach our whole business as an omni-channel organization and stop segmenting our customers, our traffic, our communication, our channels. So thank you so much. Once again, everyone, this webinar will be available on drivingsales.com, and you will get, anybody who registered will get this video also in an email. And we really appreciate you guys showing up. And Andrew, we appreciate you joining us and walking us through this.
Thanks very much, Bart, and appreciate all those that joined. Again, if you guys have follow-up questions or want to engage further in a discussion about how digital retailing can help your store or our technology, feel free to reach out to us. My email address is on the screen there, or visit our website at motoinsight.com. But thanks to Bart and Driving Sales for hosting. Take care, everyone.
We appreciate it, and we hope to see you on future webinars.